Most people live in chaos, their minds cluttered with fear, doubt, gossip, and useless fantasies. Machiavelli understood this clearly. Power is born from a mind that thinks sharply and acts decisively. Every thought that doesn't advance your influence, your control, or your strategy is a threat. It weakens you, distracts you, and gives your rivals an edge. True mastery begins when you cut every unnecessary thought and focus only on what creates power. Today I'll show you the Machiavellian way to achieve mental minimalism, to sharpen your mind into a weapon so precise that nothing can stand in your path. Machiavelli believed that the mind is the most powerful tool a person can possess, far more decisive than armies, wealth, or connections. To him, every person who seeks influence or authority must first master their own inner world before attempting to control the outer. The mind, if left unchecked, is a chaotic battlefield filled with unnecessary distractions, fleeting emotions, and frivolous thoughts that dilute focus and drain energy. Like a fortress under constant siege, it must be fortified, its walls made impenetrable to the noise that threatens to compromise clarity. Every unnecessary idea, every trivial worry, every moment spent on something that does not directly contribute to one's objectives is a crack in the walls of this fortress. Machiavelli saw that ordinary people allow themselves to be led by impulse, rumor, and desire, their minds overflowing with content that weakens judgment and slows decision. They respond to every small provocation, every gossip, every imagined slight, giving away their mental resources to matters that hold no real power over their destiny. In contrast, the disciplined mind is a fortress not only because it protects its owner from external influence, but because it preserves the energy needed to strike decisively when opportunity arises. It does not waste itself on distractions, but directs all thoughts toward understanding others, anticipating moves, and calculating outcomes. To build such a fortress, one must first recognize what is dangerous to the mind. Not all thoughts are enemies. Some are allies that sharpen perception and increase influence. The key is to distinguish between what empowers and what diminishes. Machiavelli often emphasized the importance of self-awareness, knowing your own weaknesses, tendencies, and distractions is the first step toward controlling them. A mind that is aware of its vulnerabilities can implement strategies to shield itself from them. Just as a skilled general fortifies the most vulnerable parts of a city before an attack, one must ruthlessly evaluate each mental engagement, asking whether it serves a purpose in the pursuit of power, knowledge, or strategic advantage. Thoughts that entertain resentment, fear, envy, or excessive daydreaming must be recognized for what they are. Weaknesses masquerading as contemplation. Allowing these to grow unchecked is equivalent to leaving a gate open in a fortress wall, a vulnerability that opponents, both external and internal, can exploit. Discipline of the mind is not merely about suppression. However, it is also about selection and focus. Machiavelli understood that the strongest minds are not those that are silent, but those that are selective. The ability to consciously choose which ideas, observations, and reflections deserve attention is what separates the weak from the powerful. A mind cluttered with inconsequential thoughts moves slowly, reacts poorly, and misses opportunities. It is indecisive because it is overstimulated. A mind trained to recognize value, on the other hand, acts with precision, striking only when the conditions are favorable and fully understood. The process of guarding the mind like a fortress involves constant vigilance. It requires monitoring the flow of thoughts, immediately identifying intrusions of unproductive or toxic mental content, and redirecting focus toward what truly matters. Just as a fortress has guards patrolling its walls, the disciplined mind has mechanisms of self-control, reflection, and prioritization, ensuring that nothing that weakens it is allowed entry. Machiavelli also highlighted the subtle dangers of distraction disguised as necessity. Many believe that a busy mind equals a strong mind, but this is a grave error. The illusion of productivity often masks the truth. Scattered attention, misdirected energy, and mental clutter. To truly master one's mind, one must learn to differentiate between urgent and important, between the trivial and the strategic. A fortress does not respond to every signal or noise outside its walls. It waits for the threat that matters. Similarly, the disciplined mind does not respond to every emotion, rumor, or provocation. It waits, observes, and reacts only when doing so serves a greater purpose. Guarding the mind in this way creates a natural form of power, because clarity of thought breeds clarity of action, and clarity of action commands results. The unguarded mind, by contrast, is perpetually reactive, always a step behind those who have mastered their inner world. Machiavelli believed that the mind, if left uncontrolled, becomes a fertile ground for useless thoughts, distractions, and impulses that drain both energy and effectiveness. Not all ideas that come to a person's mind are valuable. Many are simply traps, subtle diversions that prevent decisive action and strategic planning. The principle of killing useless thoughts before they grow is central to achieving mental dominance, because a mind cluttered with trivial or self-defeating notions is weak, reactive, and easily manipulated. Machiavelli observed that ordinary individuals often allow irrelevant or harmful thoughts to linger, nurturing them over time until they take on the appearance of importance. These thoughts consume attention, waste energy, and blur judgment, leaving a person vulnerable to those who act with clarity and purpose. To prevent this, it is essential to treat the mind as a battlefield where every thought must prove its utility. Anything that does not contribute to one's power, influence, or long-term objectives is a liability and must be eliminated before it has a chance to grow. The discipline to kill useless thoughts requires both vigilance and honesty. Machiavelli stressed the importance of self-awareness, knowing not only the external threats but also the internal ones. Many people deceive themselves into believing that every idea deserves consideration, when in reality, some thoughts are nothing more than echoes of fear, envy, or pride. They give the illusion of significance, while offering no strategic advantage. Recognizing these thoughts for what they are is the first step in neutralizing them. Once identified, they must be actively dismissed or redirected toward productive contemplation. This process is not passive. It is deliberate, requiring constant attention and the willingness to reject mental patterns that feel familiar or comforting, but serve no purpose in the pursuit of power. Machiavelli understood that thoughts often operate in subtle ways, creeping into decisions and influencing behavior without conscious awareness. A fleeting doubt can alter a choice. A lingering resentment can shape interactions, and a trivial worry can reduce focus at the most critical moment. By killing these useless thoughts early, one maintains the sharpness of mind necessary for strategy and influence. A disciplined mind does not allow such thoughts to fester. It intercepts them immediately, examining their origin and impact, and then either redirects them toward actionable insight or removes them entirely. This selective attention is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, the reactive from the proactive. The act of eliminating useless thoughts also creates a mental environment where productive and powerful ideas can thrive. Just as a gardener removes weeds to ensure the growth of desired plants, so too must the mind be cleared of distractions to allow valuable ideas to flourish. Machiavelli emphasized that the mind's energy is finite, and every wasted thought diminishes the capacity to plan, to observe, and to act decisively. When one eliminates trivial mental noise, the remaining thoughts gain strength and clarity. This clarity enhances decision-making, increases foresight, and allows for the execution of strategies that others, whose minds are cluttered, would fail to recognize or implement. Furthermore, killing useless thoughts strengthens resilience. A person with a cluttered mind is vulnerable to manipulation and emotional swings, but a disciplined mind is steady, focused, and difficult to mislead. Machiavelli noted that those who mastered their internal world gain an edge over those who react impulsively to external events. By proactively dismissing unproductive thoughts, one prevents them from influencing actions or clouding judgment. This practice fosters confidence and composure, traits that are as essential to power as intelligence or strategy. Machiavelli also recognized that the danger of useless thoughts lies in their subtlety. They often masquerade as creativity, curiosity, or legitimate concern, and many fail to perceive their destructive nature until it is too late. A moment of indecision, a poor reaction to a rival, or a wasted opportunity can often be traced back to the unchecked growth of trivial mental clutter. By training oneself to eliminate these thoughts immediately, one not only conserves mental energy, but also cultivates a sharp, focused mind capable of seeing opportunities that others miss and acting upon them decisively. Machiavelli understood that the human mind is rarely quiet. It is a turbulent space, filled with opinions, judgments, anxieties, and incessant chatter that rarely serves the pursuit of power. He believed that the noise within one's own thoughts often becomes the greatest obstacle to success. To operate effectively in the world, one must first silence this inner crowd, because it clouds judgment, distorts perception, and prevents decisive action. The mind is not meant to entertain every fleeting concern or emotional impulse. It is meant to calculate, anticipate, and execute strategy. Yet most individuals allow their minds to be overrun with mental noise, listening to every passing worry, entertaining every fear, and reacting to every imagined slight. In doing so, they surrender control over themselves and become slaves to circumstances, rather than architects of their own destiny. The Machiavellian approach demands the removal of this excess chatter, the cultivation of a clear and disciplined mental space where thoughts are measured, purposeful, and directed toward meaningful outcomes. To silence the inner crowd, one must first recognize its presence. Most of the noise in the mind is subtle and deceptive. It presents itself as ordinary reflection or idle curiosity, but in truth, it distracts from what matters most. Machiavelli stressed the importance of observation, not only of others, but of oneself. One must constantly monitor the patterns of thought that arise spontaneously, identifying those that are disruptive, irrelevant, or counterproductive. These thoughts may take the form of fear, doubt, or resentment, or even the compulsion to overanalyze insignificant events. They act as invisible weights, slowing the mind's ability to respond swiftly and strategically. By acknowledging these distractions, one gains the first measure of control. For a thought unexamined governs behavior unconsciously, whereas a thought recognized can be managed, redirected, or discarded entirely. The process of silencing the inner crowd is not simply about suppression. It is about refinement and selective attention. Machiavelli believed that a mind overrun with extraneous noise cannot distinguish between what is important and what is trivial. The ability to filter out unnecessary mental clutter allows one to focus exclusively on matters that advance power, influence, and strategy. This is a deliberate and practiced skill. Each thought that enters the mind must be measured for its usefulness, its potential to enhance understanding or thoughts that fail this test are neutralized or redirected toward productive avenues. In this way, the mind becomes a tool rather than a battlefield, capable of observing, calculating, and planning without interference from distractions that otherwise weaken resolve. Silencing the inner crowd also creates a space for clarity and foresight. Machiavelli observes that a decisive action often arises not from raw intelligence alone, but from the ability to perceive patterns, anticipate outcomes, and remain unshaken by the trivial. A mind cluttered with noise reacts impulsively, missing the subtle cues that indicate opportunity or danger. A disciplined mind, by contrast, sees clearly, evaluates situations with precision, and acts at the exact moment that maximizes advantage. By reducing mental chaos, one conserves energy for these critical judgments, ensuring that action is deliberate rather than reactionary. Moreover, the inner crowd often manifests as emotional turbulence, leading to indecision and misjudgment. Anger, envy, or insecurity can dominate the mind when left unchecked, producing choices that undermine influence and diminish authority. Machiavelli advocated not for emotional suppression, but for controlled awareness. Recognizing the presence of these emotional intrusions allows a person to prevent them from dictating behavior. The disciplined mind remains calm, measured, and strategically focused, using reason to guide action rather than allowing impulses to dictate outcomes. In essence, silencing the inner crowd is the practice of mental minimalism applied to strategy. It is the act of removing all that does not serve purpose, power, or control. By quieting the mind, one gains access to a level of clarity, patience, and strategic foresight unavailable to those consumed by internal noise. This discipline transforms thought into a weapon, enabling observation, calculation, and execution with precision. The chaos of unrestrained mental chatter is replaced with a controlled, powerful, and highly effective focus. And through this mastery, a person positions themselves to act decisively when others are paralyzed by their own distractions. Machiavelli understood that focus is the currency of power, and that every decision, action, and thought must serve a purpose. He observed that most people waste their mental energy on trivial matters, distractions, and concerns that offer no strategic advantage. To truly rise above mediocrity, one must direct attention exclusively toward what moves the game forward, toward what increases control, influence, and authority. Anything outside this sphere is a drain on energy, a diversion that weakens the mind's capacity to act decisively when opportunity presents itself. The mind occupied by irrelevant matters cannot discern patterns, anticipate moves, or respond effectively to threats. In contrast, a mind trained to focus solely on what matters is powerful because it is unburdened by clutter, ready to exploit openings that others fail to notice. Machiavelli's lesson is clear. Every action must be evaluated not by how it feels or appears, but by how it contributes to the accumulation of advantage and the execution of strategy. The disciplined mind recognizes that attention is finite. Every thought, every meeting, every interaction requires energy, and misallocation of this energy results in weakness. Machiavelli often emphasized that those who scatter their attention dilute their influence and expose themselves to error. When one divides focus between too many concerns, one loses depth of understanding, and the ability to act with precision diminishes. Power is rarely won through distraction or passivity. It is won by those who concentrate relentlessly on what shapes outcomes. By focusing only on what advances the game, one transforms mental energy into a tool for domination, ensuring that every idea, observation, and plan serves a tangible purpose. Machiavelli also recognized the danger of superficial involvement. Many people confuse activity with progress, busying themselves with minor tasks or social pleasantries while the real currents of power move unseen. A mind that follows every minor disturbance, reacts to every provocation, or entertains every irrelevant detail becomes entangled and slow to act. The Machiavellian approach rejects this illusion, advocating for selective engagement. One must determine what truly influences outcomes and devote energy exclusively to those areas. This is not mere efficiency, it is strategic necessity. Every distraction avoided is an opportunity seized. Every trivial concern ignored is a step closer to control. The act of focusing only on what moves the game is also a defensive strategy. By ignoring the irrelevant, one prevents rivals from manipulating attention or wasting energy on futile endeavors. Competitors who react to minor provocations or gossip are weakened by distraction, while the focused individual remains unshakable and poised to act decisively when the moment demands. Machiavelli understood that power often emerges not from overt strength alone, but from the disciplined allocation of mental and strategic resources. The ability to see clearly, unclouded by trivialities, allows one to anticipate moves, exploit weaknesses, and seize opportunities before others recognize them. Furthermore, focused transforms perception into action. A mind cluttered with inconsequential thoughts perceives reality incompletely, missing subtle cues and strategic openings. When attention is directed exclusively toward matters that matter, observation becomes precise and understanding deepens. Machiavelli emphasized that true power is not reactive. It is proactive. By concentrating on essential factors, one can foresee events, manipulate outcomes, and position oneself advantageously. Mental focus amplifies strategic vision, ensuring that every plan, every maneuver, and every interaction contributes to advancement rather than drifting aimlessly in the currents of circumstance. Finally, Machiavelli noted that the disciplined mind creates momentum. Action guided by clear focus produces results, and results reinforce further concentration and confidence. By consistently dedicating energy to what moves the game, one develops a rhythm of decisive and effective action. Each success strengthens the mind's ability to prioritize, discard the irrelevant, and maintain the clarity required to navigate complex situations. This relentless focus is what separates those who achieve power from those who merely wish for it, and it is cultivated through conscious effort, strategic thinking, and an unwavering commitment to directing attention toward what truly matters. Machiavelli believed that thought without action is wasted potential, that intelligence and insight must ultimately manifest as strategy and execution to create real power. The principle of turning thought into strategy is central to his philosophy, because a mind overflowing with ideas but lacking direction or practical application is a liability rather than an asset. Many individuals deceive themselves into believing that the act of thinking, planning, or analyzing is enough to grant influence or control, when in reality, power is measured by what is accomplished. Ideas alone do not dominate, maneuver, or reshape situations. Only when they are translated into deliberate, calculated actions do they yield results. Machiavelli recognized that the most brilliant minds are those that convert thought into decisive, effective moves, transforming intellectual energy into tangible influence that cannot be ignored. To turn thought into strategy, one must first recognize the purpose of every mental engagement. Each idea, observation, or plan must be evaluated according to its potential to advance one's position, manipulate circumstances, or anticipate the moves of others. Machiavelli's insight was that a mind left unchecked often wastes effort on speculation, conjecture, or moralizing, all of which produce no actionable outcome. The disciplined strategist, however, treats every mental process as preparatory work for real-world action. Thinking is not an end in itself. It is a tool for crafting advantage. The mind must constantly ask, will this knowledge, this insight, or this concept produce a result that strengthens my position, or will it merely occupy space without effect? By imposing this standard, one ensures that mental energy is never squandered, and that each thought contributes to a larger, coherent plan. Machiavelli also understood the importance of timing and transforming thought into strategy. Ideas are only as powerful as the moment in which they are applied. A brilliant plan executed too early, too late, or without adequate observation can fail, despite its ingenuity. The disciplined mind not only generates strategic ideas, but also monitors the conditions in which they are to be applied, adjusting and refining them until the moment is perfect for implementation. In this way, thought is not a static process. It is dynamic, constantly interacting with the environment, the behavior of others, and the unfolding of events. Intelligence without action is inert, but intelligence applied at the right moment produces decisive advantage. Furthermore, Machiavelli emphasized that turning thought into strategy requires ruthless prioritization. Not every idea, no matter how clever, deserves execution. The mind must distinguish between what is truly actionable and what is merely interesting or enticing. Many individuals allow curiosity, pride, or distraction to dictate which thoughts are pursued, resulting in scattered efforts that achieve little. The disciplined strategist identifies the concepts and plans that have the highest potential for influence, directs attention and resources to them, and discards the rest. In doing so, mental effort is concentrated on outcomes rather than indulgence, and the resulting strategy is both focused and formidable. Action guided by thought also builds credibility and authority. Machiavelli observed that people are drawn to those who demonstrate mastery, foresight, and effectiveness. A mind that generates ideas without execution earns neither respect nor influence. Only when intelligence is expressed through decisive moves does it command attention and inspire compliance. The translation of thought into strategy thus serves a dual purpose. It achieves tangible results, while simultaneously projecting an aura of competence and control, reinforcing power in ways that passive contemplation cannot. Finally, Machiavelli recognized that turning thought into strategy requires persistence and discipline. Execution is rarely perfect on the first attempt, and the mind must continuously refine plans, adapt to changing circumstances, and learn from outcomes. A strategist who treats thought as static or purely theoretical loses the advantage that comes from flexibility and responsiveness. By constantly transforming reflection into deliberate action, the mind becomes a weapon that is not only intelligent, but also effective, ensuring that every insight, observation, and analysis contributes directly to the accumulation of influence, control, and power. Machiavelli understood that while most people expend their energy on immediate conflict and petty rivalries, true power often comes from patience and the art of observation. Letting others carry the weight of distraction is a strategy rooted in restraint and cunning, where one conserves mental and emotional energy while opponents exhaust themselves on trivial matters. He observed that fools and the impulsive are easily consumed by emotion, gossip, and fear, becoming entangled in issues that hold little real consequence. These individuals react to every provocation, chase every imagined slight, and allow minor disturbances to dictate their actions. Meanwhile, the disciplined strategist remains detached, recognizing that by remaining composed and focused, they can watch, learn, and plan without revealing their own intentions. In this way, the act of allowing others to carry the burden of distraction creates a hidden advantage, a reservoir of mental clarity and energy that can be deployed at the exact moment when it produces decisive results. The principle relies on understanding human nature. Machiavelli observed that people are easily trapped by their own impulses and insecurities. Those who are distracted by envy, fear, or pride often make errors that compromise their position. By stepping aside and allowing these tendencies to run their course, the observer gains invaluable insight into their opponent's strategies, weaknesses, and priorities. It is a form of passive intelligence gathering, where the actions of others reveal more than direct confrontation ever could. The one who is underestimated or who maintains mental discipline benefits because the mistakes of the distracted are visible, predictable, and in this, patience becomes a weapon as powerful as any overt action. And the ability to let others exhaust themselves ensures that when the time comes to act, it is done with maximum advantage and minimal resistance. Machiavelli also emphasized the importance of emotional control in this approach. Many fail to recognize the hidden cost of reacting impulsively. Anger, resentment, and anxiety are burdens that sap clarity and diminish focus. By remaining detached while others succumb to these impulses, the strategist preserves their own capacity to think critically and act decisively. The mind unburdened by distraction perceives opportunities with greater accuracy, anticipates threats with precision, and calculates outcomes with superior foresight. In essence, letting others carry the weight of distraction is not passivity. It is active control over one's own resources. A conscious decision to conserve energy while observing the mistakes and patterns of others. This strategy also relies on subtlety. To be effective, it must appear that the observer is neutral or unconcerned, giving no hint of the intelligence, calculation, or strategy at work. Machiavelli understood that the perception of inactivity can be misleading, lulling opponents into a false sense of security. When they believe that one is preoccupied, unaware, or incapable of decisive action, they reveal themselves, making errors that might otherwise remain hidden. This allows the strategist to act at a moment when the advantages are clearly stacked in their favor, executing plans with precision while opponents are mentally exhausted or strategically compromised. Furthermore, Machiavelli recognized that power is often cumulative. By conserving mental energy and letting others exhaust themselves on inconsequential matters, one maintains the capacity for sustained, deliberate action over time. Those who react to every challenge, every slight, and every distraction burn out, becoming predictable and vulnerable. The disciplined observer, however, accumulates advantage steadily, learning from the missteps of others and acting only when the payoff is certain. This patience ensures that power is not squandered, that decisions are made with clarity, and that opportunities are seized with maximum effect. In essence, letting others carry the weight of distraction transforms the chaos of the world into a source of strategic insight. The disciplined mind becomes sharper while others falter. Mistakes reveal themselves without intervention, and energy is preserved for decisive, high-impact actions. Machiavelli's lesson is clear. Wisdom lies not in constant struggle, but in the ability to stand apart, observe, and act only when the conditions are perfectly aligned to ensure victory and influence. In the pursuit of power, it is not enough to act, to think, or to react. True mastery comes from discipline of the mind, from knowing which thoughts to nurture and which to destroy, from focusing relentlessly on what moves the game, and from conserving your energy while others squander theirs. Every distraction ignored, every useless idea eliminated, every carefully calculated action executed builds the foundation of influence that cannot be shaken. Machiavelli teaches that the mind is the ultimate weapon, and the one who wields it with precision, patience, and strategy will always stand a step ahead of those consumed by noise, emotion, and trivialities. To rise above the crowd, to command respect, and to create real power, one must think like a strategist, observe like a master, and act like the one who knows the rules that others do not. In the end, mental minimalism is not just a practice seat. It is the key to dominating the game before anyone even realizes it exists.